Welcome back, Headliner Nation. Kyle with the Fantasy Headliners. And if I sound excited, it is because I am. This is my favorite video to record every single year because I'm going to give you a sneak peek into the dynamic running back rating. If you've purchased the draft guide before or you purchased it this year, you've already seen this information. But for those of you that have not purchased it, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. You don't get the whole kit and caboodle. You don't get the entire package. If you want an entire breakdown of all 32 teams and all the running backs, including a write-up of those teams, then you got to go get the draft guide. And you saw a preview of it before the show. But this video is always fun to do because the dynamic running back rating is exclusive to the Fantasy Headliners. Why is that? It's because it's a rating that I made myself. This is a formula that took me about a year to really fine-tune and make it so we can find the running backs that give us the highest upside every single time they touch the football. So before we jump into all the information, I need to explain to you a little bit what goes into the dynamic running back rating and why it is a tool that can help you be successful. So with the dynamic running back rating, there are two sections to it, two areas of statistics that we use to incorporate and find out what this rating is. The first set of statistics are our volume stats, okay? Those are those top line numbers. We've talked about them before on our videos, right? Your carries, your rush yards, your rushing touchdowns, your receptions, your receiving yards, and your receiving touchdowns. Obviously, players who are getting the ball a lot and have a lot of volume, we want them on our team. We want running backs that touch the ball all of the time. So guys who get the ball a lot should obviously be rewarded. But within this statistic, there was one thing that I wanted to do within this rating. I wanted to find out on a per game basis, on a per touch basis, what could we do? So I decided to add another category of statistics that show us what a player does every time he touches the football. And those are called our dynamic stats. Those are the statistics that really help us clarify the upside that a player has every time he gets the football. And those statistics are yards after contact per attempt, tackles avoided per attempt, and yards after the catch per reception. With running backs, I want running backs that when they touch the football, they are always going to get me that little bit extra, okay? I want guys that are going to fight for extra yards, that are going to get me second chances, right? We win fantasy football matchups by having the highest upside in our lineup every single week. Well, that's why this was created, to help us find that. So the reason we have dynamic stats that look at a per touch basis and volume stats that look at a per game basis, by combining those, and I've created a weighted score that allows us to find out that, hey, even if you missed 6 games last year, on a per game and per touch basis, what did you do? What is your upside? Because I don't want to knock somebody or give them a bad score just because they missed 6 games, because in 2020, they could be huge upside players. Guys that play all 16 games and give us huge upside every single week. And that's what we are looking for. Now, you know, here at the Fantasy Headliners, we keep receipts, okay? And it doesn't matter what the receipt is. It might have been a receipt that we got the best deal on, and it might have been a receipt that we got taken to the woodshed on a bad deal. It does not matter. So here are some receipts from last year, just to show you that this rating truly does impact what we should be doing in our drafts. So 3 players that I brought up significantly last year on this channel were Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, and Nick Chubb. And the reason I continue to bring those guys up is because I said, if those guys get huge amounts of volume, the yards after the catch or the yards after contact, the tackles avoided per attempt, the receiving yards after the catch, they had such high scores in those 3 categories over to the right-hand side that if they increase their touchdowns and they increase their overall volume, their scores would soar up through the roof and they would become top-tier running backs. Those were the guys that we were targeting last year based on what this score was telling us. The weighted overall score was not that great, but that's why this score is so unique, because there's so many categories to look at that you can infer some different information from them and say their dynamic stats are so good that if the volume comes, the weighted score has to shoot up. And Aaron Jones in 2018 was running back 16, Derrick Henry was running back 21, Nick Chubb was running back 24 based on their weighted score. What did I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? If the volume went up, so would the numbers. Aaron Jones ended up as the running back 5, Derrick Henry the running back 6, and Nick Chubb is the running back 10. So the scores truly do help you see why a player, if he just gets a little bit more, gets a little bit extra, maybe he's getting a ton of volume and he just needs to increase his dynamic stats a little bit. Then his weighted average could shoot up. There's a lot of different things to take a look at. So there's 3 running backs that I want to take a look at today. Now, the 3 running backs that I'm going to take a look at are not on the same level as Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, and Derrick Henry. Those are guys that we really bought into last year. Instead, I want to take a look at 3 guys that really are being overlooked right now for several different reasons. And number 1 is Devin Singletary from the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people are making a lot out of Zach Moss right now. And I don't get it, because Zach Moss is not going to take an awful lot away from Devin Singletary. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because his weighted score last year was a 54. That was about the range of Aaron Jones 2 years ago before I called the breakout based on this score. And if you look at his dynamic stats are not nearly as impressive as what Aaron Jones were, but his yards after contact and his tackles avoided per attempt, especially his tackles avoided per attempt, were very, very good. So we know that when Devin Singletary catches the ball or he gets the ball, whenever he has the ball in his hand, he's always going to be fighting for those second chance yards. He's going to miss some tackles. He's going to get you that little bit extra every single time. And because of his volume stats over on the left-hand side, it wasn't too bad. Now, he did play in 12 games last year, so we take those 12 games and we're only looking at those 12 games. He's not being knocked for missing time last year. So this year, if we can get him a little bit extra in the passing game and get him a little bit extra on the ground now that Frank Gore is gone, and he keeps some of those same statistics over on the dynamic side, we could see him make that leap up into running back 1 status. Now, some things have to go right for him for that to happen, but it could based on the numbers that we're looking at. With TJ Yeldon, he's a guy that I brought up the other day because I wanted to remind everybody, as a deep sleeper, he's a guy that you want to be taking a look at. And if you look at his dynamic stats, when the dude touches the football, he makes an awful lot of people miss. He makes an awful lot of people miss, and he gets you a lot of yards after contact. That's why TJ Yeldon is still a guy that we're keeping on our radar if there are any injuries in the backfield in Buffalo. Devin Singletary, I really like him this year. Definitely think he has all the running back 2 upside in the world. There are going to be some games where he gets into running back 1 territory as well. But if everything goes right and he gets the lion's share of the workload, the dude is going to be excellent this year. So let's move on to another running back, the second running back that I want to talk about today. And I did not clear this with Jake because I did not want to get fired, but it's Ronald Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I know, ladies and gentlemen, the hashtag on this channel has always been say no to Rojo. And I was 100% bought into that for the longest time. But there is a reason that this year I am hashtag saying maybe to Rojo. Because it all depends on where he lands in your draft. People are going crazy over Keyshawn Vaughn right now. They want Vaughn on their roster. They think that he is going to be the saving grace there in Tampa Bay. But I am not giving up on Ronald Jones just yet. Because even if they split a lot of the work, because of Ronald Jones' dynamic statistics, he could still end up being a running back, a low running back 2, high running back 3. Now, if Vaughn does truly come in and take all the workload away from him, and Ronald Jones doesn't get that many touches moving forward, then yeah, this doesn't really matter. Because his downfall last year was the volume. On a per game basis, he wasn't getting a ton of volume because Peyton Barber was getting it. But if he were to increase that volume, even if it's in the passing game, so if Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be the number one running back, but Barber is going to be the guy, or not Barber, excuse me, Jones is going to be the guy that's in on passing plays, based on his dynamic statistics, he is a guy that in PPR leagues could still be a flex option for you every single week. Again, I know the majority of you that watch this video are going to say, I can't believe that you just tried to talk up Ronald Jones on this channel. I get it. I'm not saying go out there and draft Ronald Jones in the 3rd or 4th round. I'm not saying draft Ronald Jones to be your running back 2 or even running back 3. But based on his ADP, you could get Ronald Jones as like your running back 4 right now, stash him on the bench, and if the dude ends up beating out Keyshawn Vaughn in an offseason that's going to be crazy, maybe Vaughn doesn't get a whole lot of playing time with the starters. Maybe they want to keep Jones in there. I've heard a lot of good things from guys Jones have been working out with over the offseason, saying that he's worked on his pass blocking ability. If it happens, Ronald Jones could end up being a steal this year. It absolutely could happen. Jake hates him. I understand that. I'm not going out there to draft him in every single one of my leagues. But if you're just completely overlooking him and not seeing some of the other numbers, then you're not doing yourself justice to potentially finding yourself a gem this season if he does get the volume. We need the volume from Ronald Jones, though. That's the number one thing, because the dynamic stats say if he gets it, he's going to do a lot with it. Now, the last guy that I want to take a look at is one that has a lot of question marks this season, and that is Derrius Guice of the Washington Redskins. I've always loved Derrius Guice, and I am not ready to give up on him yet. There's no way that I am willing to do that. In only 5 games last year, in the 10 years worth of data that I have pulled, that's right. Even though I only had this score for the first time last year and was really using it, I have 10 years worth of data and scores pulled to make sure it worked out correctly. In the 10 years worth of data that I have, Derrius Guice has some of the most impressive scores in dynamic ratings in dynamic statistics that I have ever pulled. In yards after contact, he was 100 last year. In tackles avoided per attempt, he was 85. And receiving yards after the catch, he was 89. If Derrius Guice is given the key to the backfield in Washington this year, Derrius Guice will absolutely explode. 100%. He is really risky in redraft, though, because his ADP is creeping. You still have Adrian Peterson there, and Antonio Gibson also is there, and they've said we're going to use him as a running back. But I am not giving up on Derrius Guice. If you are in a dynasty league, you go buy Derrius Guice right now after you are done watching this video, and you hold on to him, because I bet you can get him for a pretty decent price still. Will he be healthy this year? Man, I hope so, because I would hate to see him lose time in the league because he can't stay healthy. But his dynamic stats are through the roof, and if he gets the volume to go with him, he is a lock to be a running back too. If he can get anywhere between 200 and 250 carries, he is a lock for high-end running back 2. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. But I don't know if he's going to get that volume. But when he touches the football, the dude is a stud. When he gets the football in his hand, he makes people miss. He picks up lots of yards. After he catches the football, he moves quickly. This is a guy that is everything you want in a running back. We just got to get him the volume. And there you have it. There's my sneak peek into the dynamic running back rating. The reason I showed you the 3 guys at the beginning of the video is because after I showed you Ronald Jones and Derrius Guice, I knew you'd probably be scratching your head a little bit. That's why I started off with Devin Singletary as well. But I promise you all, this thing works. If you read it and infer it correctly, and you work through the numbers, and you go through the write-ups that I have in the draft guide, again, I do a write-up for all 32 teams talking about the scores for the running backs on their team. If you do that, you're going to find your Aaron Jones or Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb. You're going to find those guys that are going to end up having big upside for you. And those aren't even some of the most impressive numbers. Trust me, I've got other guys that I didn't bring up in this video because I'm going to bring them up in future videos and have more in-depth information on them. And this is really to kind of give you a sneak peek behind the scenes of what you can get with my dynamic running back rating. And if you've already used it and you've read through it, this just helps you listen a little bit more. And it gives me a chance to break it down so you can hear it for yourself. But Headliner Nation, do me a favor. If you appreciated the content, hit that like button down below and leave me a comment with your thoughts. Have you bought the draft guide? Have you had a chance to dig through the DRBR? What do you think about it? Tell the other people who have not purchased the draft guide yet and why they should be taking a chance with it, because it is hashtag hella fire. And then as always, if you're new to the Fantasy Headliners, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, become a part of Headliner Nation today. And if you're new to the channel, leave a comment down below letting us know this is your first video and you're subscribing to the channel so we can welcome you to Headliner Nation. Everybody out there, do me a favor, stay safe and stay healthy, all right? Enjoy your holiday weekend. See some family, maybe hang out with some friends, do a little social distancing, whatever you got to do to stay healthy out there. And I will catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.